everybody, I just want to say that I asked Mr. Scott to come to our program. And how do you feel about coming here, huh, Scott?
Oh, great. I'm glad to be of any help to you guys.
Okay, I said I'm a fan of the conventions. I met you a couple times. I'm a really big fan of your show.
I appreciate that, yeah.
It's a really, really good show.
And it's really nice. I mean, I asked my people who I work with at Mattel now, and they were all excited about me coming to help you guys out. So
Well, that's really nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I got some questions to ask you, okay, Scott?
Fire away.
All right, and question number one is, describe for us a day in the life as a TV producer, and why did you decide to become one?
Well, in my case, I kind of was thrown into it. I was a musician and a composer, and have been still doing music for different TV shows and everything. And was working at Saban as sound effects and a director for voices. And when Power Rangers came along, I was working on the pilots, and we all decided the show would never make it on the air. But they got me eventually to go up to the studios in Valencia and be in charge of all the voices up there, which is called the ADR, or the Automated Dialogue Replacement, which doesn't really mean what it means anymore. But so I became the producer in charge of the voices. Now in a show like Power Rangers, that's about 50 to 80% of the show, because so much of the monster voices is Japanese footage, and then the stuff that the actors had to replace, and the stuff with the actors replacing the guys in the costumes who were doing the actual Ranger costumes. So my day was, I was really in the post part of it. We had a really unique situation with Power Rangers in that we probably had the first time where post-production and production became part of the same team. And so because usually I would get the show when they'd finish it, and then we'd have to, they'd be done. They'd be done with everything. But it never quite worked that way, because we had our set downstairs, and my studios were upstairs. So every day I'd come in, I'd have usually they'd give me a rough edit of the show. I'd either write it, the ADR, or send it out to be written. I'd cast whoever would be the monsters. Doug Ladislaw would give us the lines that had to be replaced by the production people. And then we'd get we'd cast everybody, have them come on in and redo the voices for us.
Okay.
It was great fun. I mean, I'd go on the set all the time to go pull people out and bring them back up. It was great fun.
Okay. Actually, another question, okay?
Go ahead.
Through a producer's perspective, walk us through the transferring of the Japanese version of Power Rangers to the United States.
From what my knowledge is of it, because you gotta remember there's a lot of different kinds of producers.
Yeah.
I was the ADR producer. There's the line producer who kind of takes care of the money. There's the producer who's like oversees it. The executive producers kind of pay for it and oversee it. There's post-production producers and everything else. But from what I understood what was going on, and I saw it, so I know what happened. They'd get certain footage. They'd give it to writers who would try and make sense out of and see what footage could be used. You couldn't use any footage that had people in it, because it was obviously then it wasn't in America. Occasionally they would, if it was just saw backs of them or something. So we bring the footage, they pick whatever footage they could use and try and make a story out of it. Well, whatever the story they tried to make out of it, they tried to shoot around the American footage to fill in those blanks of the Japanese footage. And if they had the monsters, which they had them shipped over, they'd shoot those to make them fit. If they didn't, they'd just throw stuff together and try and make a monster out of it. And then they'd give it to me, and it'd have this show that they kind of envisioned in their head, but it didn't make any sense. And so I would have to, with my team, put it together and try and make sense out of it and dub it all in.
Okay. There's another question. Yeah, there's another question about the casting. How did you manage yourself and the rest of the crew of casting changes each and every year?
Well, when we first started, we didn't do that in the beginning.
Yeah, you did that with Season 5 Turbo. That's when it started.
Yeah. It was really tough when we really got going that way, because we were trying not to be like the Japanese and have a cast that stayed with it. But the cast it wasn't a really well-paying show in the beginning, and so the cast was feeling a little taken advantage of, and when some of them left, they realized they could change it every year. So it was tough for me, because you're just about to be friends with everybody, because my end of it was so much more being friends, not so much friends with them, but I had to be the more nurturing person, because I had to deal with them and get performances. And so get to be good friends with everybody else, and they're gone. It was tough that way. The casting was always fun when I was involved with that. Just to have all the people come in and there's things on people's resumes. They'll always say they did something. I can juggle 5 balls in one hand, and of course one of the producers would always make them do that if they were stupid enough to put that on their resume. So
it's kind of funny.
It was fun, yeah. It was funny.
All right, another question is, you know, on Power Rangers Turbo, I remember you did the voice of the walking, talking, like kind of looked like a marshmallow
Yeah.
Pardo.
Yeah, Squirtle.
How did you get your role to play him anyway?
Actually, people probably thought that I handed it to myself. I didn't. I auditioned, and I always made the auditions blind because people would the other producers would get ideas about certain actors. They'd know their name, and so I always made him do a number. This is number 3, and his audition would say,
Hello, my name is Porto, my queen.
and so I auditioned, and I got it. So I lucked out. I mean, I always gave myself one monster a year that I just wanted to do, but that wasn't it. That one I auditioned for and got.
And can I ask you one quick thing? This is about the same, like a 2-in-1 question. Did you get to wear the costume?
No.
Kind of dirty and smelly, right?
All those costumes were pretty dank, yeah.
Okay.
No, I have a picture of you standing next to the guy in the costume somewhere.
Yeah. Question number 5. Were there any difficult challenges working on the set of Power Rangers? Like, name some of them, or?
Well, the challenges I had were certain actors would come in with attitudes, or let's just say they weren't in the right mood to do their performances, and so I had to try and get performances. And a couple of people I had to close the session and escort them out and bring them into my office and give them a stern yelling at, and they usually would come around and come back.
Did you ever yell at some people sometimes?
Oh yeah, I mean, as much as I ever yell, I might just say, I'd give them a rash of talking to, shall we say, if they were just screwing around or weren't taking it seriously, because I had to get the final thing delivered. Yeah, everything had to be in place, and if one actor was being a pain, it meant I couldn't deliver.
Can't name some people.
Let's just say, from the beginning, a few of the big players in the beginning, and then I can say one person, like Archie Cow is a good friend of mine still, and one day he just wasn't in the mood, and I had to bring him in my office and scream at him, and he was great, and we've been great friends ever since.
What about Ricardo?
I couldn't help Ricardo.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I mean, you'd only have what you can work with.
All right. So I guess you were like, you kind of did yell at them, right?
Well, I wasn't yelling. They didn't give me what needed to be done. I had to, you just had to talk to them in a somewhat rational way and tell them they either do it right or I'll get somebody who can.
Okay.
And I did tell people that. And a lot of times, if people didn't do what needed to be done, not a lot of times, it only happened very few times out of the, how many seasons did I do?
10. You did 10. You were there for 10 years.
Yeah, and so only a few people had to be recast. And usually if it was a guy who had to be recast, I brought a girl in to do his voice, and vice versa. Because if they were making my life miserable, I was going to make their life miserable.
Okay. And here's a quick comment,
Uh-huh.
and we're going to move on to the next question. When I met Blake Foster, he was a little kid Power Ranger,
Yeah.
he said you were like a dad.
Yeah,
He says you were like a father.
Well, I was an influence to these kids. I mean, they were growing up in front of our eyes, I still can't believe it's him. I need to get his information, actually.
Want to move on to the next question now?
Yeah, sure.
All right, now during your 10-year run of Power Rangers, what was your favorite season and why? I know this question already.
Yeah, well, I mean, my favorite cast that I got, not because, they were all great. There's only a few people I didn't get along, but my favorite cast was Lightspeed Rescue because they're just all good. I've stayed really good friends with all of them. And
all 6 of them?
Pretty much. I haven't seen Keith even if the ones I haven't seen in a long time, we still speak once in a while.
Yeah.
And I see Sean all the time.
The Red Ranger?
Yeah, we're friends, and Monica I talk to every now and then, Ron I see every now and then, and Sasha. And plus that was the only year, one of my hobbies I think is you'll see others, I love scuba diving. And so that year I taught the whole cast to scuba dive, and they all came out together, and we have all these great pictures of us all running around.
Yeah, I think I saw that at the convention. You
Yeah.
showed us a picture of like all 5, all
fun.
6 of them.
Yeah, that was real fun. And so we all stayed close, and but I'm still close with a lot of them. I still see Catherine, Kat all the time. And,
You want to talk about some of them you keep in touch with?
Well, sure I can. But
A few of them, not all of them.
I see Kat a lot because I've brought her in for Mattel, and she's gotten a really big part on one of the toys. And Nakia is now. I brought her in for a Barbie thing, and she's now Barbie's friend in all the online Barbie Life in the Dreamhouse shows.
Yeah.
And I talked to Jason Franks once in a Blue Moon.
Yeah, he's the legend guy, right?
Yeah. And Paul Schreier, I'm still friends with from the beginning, and and then Narvi, of course, and I mean, a lot of them I still stay in touch with.
There's a lot, just
Yeah,
put
Jim,
comment, there's a
Jason
lot of
Fong.
people. There's a lot of people to make a list of,
There were a lot of Rangers on that show.
and even the voice actors, Neil
all the
Kaplan.
voice actors, all of them. Yeah, I gave a lot of these guys their first gigs.
Okay.
I see Lex Lang a lot still, and David Lodge and Michael Sorich is a good friend. So a lot of them.
All right. Guess we'll go to the next question right
Sure.
now. Yeah. You know the question? No way.
No.
All right, I know. What do you think, in your opinion?
Yeah.
When your show came on to your first season to the last show and to all the shows, what do you think has made it so successful? Just keeps on going, hasn't ended.
I think it has a really basic value system of good and bad, of doing the right thing, and there's consequences for doing the wrong thing. It's really simple, and that's why, like from the very beginning, the kids did good things, and they were just wholesome kids, and the bad guys were very obviously bad, and the bad people got their desserts. And so it was just really kind of good and bad, and especially in the beginning for the colors, the primary colors, kids that could just react to, and the dinosaurs in the beginning, boys just loved the dinosaurs. So it was just a great combination of things that we all thought were insane at the time and turned out to be really great.
There's a lot of other things. You got to think about turbo head cars,
Yeah.
space, outer space technology,
Yep.
time traveling and time force. There was a lot of other things we could look at the show and say it had this and that. You know it?
Absolutely, but the bottom line is still it's just a good versus evil, and the good does the right thing.
Let me ask you one quick question about the whole good versus evil. Who was your favorite bad guy? Who do you think was the
Me.
best bad guy?
Porno, of course.
You mean the bad guys you worked with?
No, who was great? I mean, Vernon was great. I don't know. I wasn't thinking about that. But I liked all the monsters. I loved in the beginning Squat and Baboons. I loved, actually, my favorite was Rito.
You mean the skeleton
Repulsa.
guy? You mean
Yeah.
not Rita Repulsa?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's the
Not
original
Rito,
bad-
Rito, her brother.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was crazy. He was a madman. We laughed very hard all the time in the
Yeah.
studio. And that's kind of, in my memories, in the hindsight, I couldn't really tell you what a lot of the stories were about, but I could tell you who I laughed in the studio with.
Want to
Well,
share
I mean,
that?
like, yeah, Rito we did all the
Yeah.
time. Bob Manahan played Zordon. We were hitting hysterics all the time. Tons of the Rangers. Michael Sorich, Dave Mallow, Richard Epcar, Wendy Lee. We just would laugh our brains. And Richard Horvitz, oh man, he had me on the floor most of the time. He played Alpha. He said lots of silly things.
All right. Next question. I'm gonna give you the next question. After you finished your role as being the producer of Power Rangers, what other projects have you moved on to?
I shot 3 pilots that I was trying to sell. One was called The Wine Guys, had some stars, and one was The Sea Musketeers, and one was called Cooking with Juan. And they were all 3 different styles. The problem was I found it difficult for me when I left Power Rangers, everyone saw me as a kids producer, and that's it. And so they wouldn't give me a chance to go out and do other things, which is kind of a weird thing for me to deal with. Here I was coming off the biggest show in the history of children's television, and I couldn't get in the door at certain places. I did finally. I sold The Wine Guys a few times, but then it all fell apart, as tends to happen in this business. And then I was directing a lot of anime, and I wrote a lot of anime ADR scripts for the next 4 or 5 years. And then I got the job at Mattel now, where I'm in charge of voices for all product for the toys, and I write music, and I'm writing music for a bunch of different TV shows and films. I started the History Channel with the first 4 hours of program with my partner and we did the music and the post for all those shows. The show is now called Marvel Marvels.
And another quick thing, I'll put this as a 2-part question. How did it feel to leave? Like when Wild Force, that was the last season you worked on, when it was all over for you, like knowing it was all over with.
Oh, it was awful. I had a great job. In the beginning, it was really hard work, especially when we were doing 4 shows at a time. We were doing Power Rangers, Beetleborgs, finishing VR Troopers, Masked Rider at the same time. And
I'm Saban sold all of it.
yeah, they were all 4 going on. I had probably 6 or 8 directors, 4 or 5 engineers. We were running almost 24 hours. It was ridiculous. And then in the end, when just the one show was happening, it was fantastic. But it was really sad losing my family in the end. I'd been there for 10 years, obviously, and it was really tough when that finally ended. But it was a great run. It was great times.
All right. Well, I'll give you another question, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to move on from like Power Rangers we talked about now. I read someone, you were like a sound effect.
Sound
What was it like being on this on the Live from the House of Blues? How was it like working on that project?
Well, that was once again that was Bob Manahan, who was the voice of Zordon.
Yeah.
He got this job mixing one of the first HD live shows they were shooting. They picked James to do it at the House of Blues in Las Vegas, and I heard about it, and so I asked him to sneak me and Paul Rosenthal was another producer on the show onto it. So we got credit for being A2s, and we didn't really do a lot. Just kind of hung around with James, and it was amazing hanging out with him. And on stage, especially I would be off stage looking at him, and he'd be looking at me and trying to get me to do stuff for him, but I don't know what he's talking about. And he'd be looking at me going, "Hey, get a harmonica! Where's the harmonica?" I'm going, "What? Give me the harmonica!" So I just didn't. I figured he was yelling at somebody, so I grabbed one of his crew and tell him to go talk to him. They got it for him, and he's telling me, "Turn the monitors up! Turn the monitors up!" And I couldn't do it because I was just on the A2, which was just kind of a taking care of the audio on the stage, meaning just hooking the mics up and stuff. So it was just just a fun thing to do. But it was amazing to work with a legend like that. I got to autograph my backstage pass, and so it's sitting around somewhere.
Okay. Well, I'll give you another question. Do you have any favorite role models or any favorite producers? Like any?
Not really. As my friends who were on it, Doug Sloan and Ann Austin Ann Knapp, who's now in Austin. They helped me a lot. I really appreciated what they did, but I don't really know because I didn't really work with anybody else because I kind of figured it out on my own in what I was doing. So and people to help me, Tony Oliver and stuff, were great, but it wasn't. I didn't really have any people I look up to in terms of producing because I was always trying to be going in as a composer.
Any favorite role models, like any composers that were your favorite?
I love what Hans Zimmer does. I love James Newton Howard. I love his stuff. So it's just, there's lots of composers I really.
You got to put John Williams on the list.
Of course, John Williams is unbelievable. It's a different set of rules that I deal with comparing with John Williams. And he's here, and everybody else is trying to get there.
Okay.
And Bernard Herrmann, of course, from way back. So it's lots and lots of different composers I love.
Yeah, so.
And TV shows, all different. I like doing music and film and production for TV because it's much more of a instantaneous. You got to get it done. It's on the air. We had so many times because I'm not just Power Rangers. I did like 1,000 episodes of other animated shows for Saban, and we'd get them done Thursday night, and they had to be shipped Friday morning and on the air Saturday. A lot of times we'd have them shipped Friday, and they were airing a few hours later.
Oh.
So it was crazy, and I liked that because it had to be done, and you didn't have a lot of people getting in the way who have no business getting in the way, which is probably the biggest problem with film and television today. You can't make a movie or a film by committee that's any good.
Okay. I'll shoot. I have a question.
Sure.
So, what are some of your favorite things to do, hobbies, as a producer?
Well, not as a producer, as a me.
As a person, as you do.
I'm a big scuba diving freak. I told you I taught lots of rangers to dive.
You said you taught the Lightspeed cast out.
Yeah, I taught lots of rangers.
Hey, they did it on the show, by the way, a couple episodes in Lightspeed Rescue.
Yeah, I was with them. And I had to be there for when they had the mermaid thing, and I was like the safety diver, and I taught her how to dive. And but I love diving, and I'm a master instructor, so I do it in my spare time a lot. I love doing music. I play with bands. I do stuff for film, and I'm still doing it for at Mattel. My band's called Stupid Pony, and we play around, and I play with other different people. So music and scuba take up most of my life.
Oh.
And wine. I make a wine too. So it's a busy boy.
So, this is the last question. So, what inspired you to come to our program?
Well, meeting you inspired me to come to this program because I could see someone who's very passionate about what's going on with your life and being involved with this business. And we talked about it at one of the conventions I was at.
Yeah.
And I thought this would be a great way if you guys if I could help in any other way. This is what you inspired me to come here.
Okay.
So it's a good thing. So thank you.
Well, guess that's a wrap. Mr. Scott Pager, everybody.